5 o'clock on Super Bowl Friday. You're off work, you're headed home, you got a big weekend, and then the Super Bowl on Sunday. We have it on KTIK, the whole deal. Our pregame starts at noon, so when you're driving wherever you're going, make sure you're going to listen to KTIK Sports Radio, The Ticket. We have Coach Koetter with us, Prater, but before we get to Coach, we got to talk Timberstone Golf Course, our boy Kelly, and the fact that he is now going to put $1,000 more into the Horseshoe Collective.
As of right now, we're up to $5,000 thanks to Dirk, thanks to Kelly at Timberstone, like you said, sending money to the Horseshoe Collective. Joe and the gang over there, it helps Boise State fund student athletes, NIL, revenue sharing, all the stuff that they're trying to do out there. So it's been a very cool situation. We've had Dirk on 4 consecutive Fridays. Today makes 5th going through the NFL playoffs.
Yeah.
And none of this could have happened without the cooperation of everybody. So thanks to everybody for putting that sucker together. And let's just keep doing stuff like this.
Let's do this.
I know we're starting a new series with Jeremiah Dickey next week. We're grinding behind the scenes to try to put together some kind of deal like this as well. We're not giving up. You know, Spencer Danielson keeps yelling at us to do our part. Ballgame, you and I are going to do our part with that little help from our friends.
Yeah, no cold calls, Spence, but we can do a lot of other stuff. Let's go to our Taco Bell hotline and welcome on former Boise State head coach, former NFL head coach, Dirk Koetter. Coach, do you remember the first Super Bowl that you ever watched as a kid and who was playing and what was going on?
Oh my gosh. In my deep preparation for this show today, I did not expect that question. That is a stump the coach right there,
okay.
Because I have no idea. I have no idea. And though on that lead in though, when you guys were saying you're doing your part for Boise State on this collective thing, you guys are doing a good job. I'm proud of you guys for stepping up. I'm proud of Timberstone for stepping up on this. So I want to get that out of the way early, but no, I have no idea who my first Super Bowl was. No idea at all.
Now, I don't know if you remember this, Coach, but I've actually been in your house, your family house. I've been in, I think, your basement. Isn't there a staircase with a whole bunch of football paraphernalia hanging from the wall? Was it the basement where you and Dad used to watch football games?
It was the basement. That was their old house. My folks moved a few years back. They moved up into the foothills there in beautiful Pocatello. And in the old house, that was the case. My mom, we even had the red and black shag carpet signifying Highland Rams power.
Oh.
And that goes way back. My mom had it all decorated up, but
wow.
Yeah, those days are gone. They got a different pad now. And speaking of Pocatello, heck, I went downtown Boise today, listened to Cody Hawkins talk about the Bengals recruiting class. Big Hawk was there. It's a rare day when you get to see Cody Hawkins speak and Big Hawk along with Misty Hawkins also there. And how about our Idaho State Bengals joining the Vandals and the Broncos? And I think I'm right on this.
Yep.
All of us now have one player in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool.
Yep, you're right. Jared Allen. And I'm not going to ask you about Terrell Suggs because that might be a sore subject for you, Coach. T-Sizzle will get in.
No, not at all. He'll get in. I think Terrell will get in. It's crazy. I don't understand how that all works, but how does Eli Manning not get in? Terrell's going to get in, but I mean, they said this is like the smallest class in the last few years. I mean, only 4 guys getting in, but
yeah,
very cool for Jared Allen.
Absolutely. And for the Bengal fans out there, how fun is that going to be this summer? Coach, Super Bowl 59, Kansas City, and you probably noticed this in last year, whatnot, they score often on their opening drives. And a lot of times I look at it and this defense is just on its heels and Mahomes is just doing like whatever he wants. What goes into that? And why does Andy do so well on opening drives to keep a defense on the heels immediately the way they do? If I'm Kansas City, I'm getting the ball on kickoff if I win the toss because I want to go up there and get up 7-0.
Yeah, everybody, it's been talked about a lot more recently. I mean, the announcers talk about it, the script. You know, every coach has a little bit different deal. My deal was 12. I always had 6 runs and 6 passes. That was going to be our script. Those 12 were going to come off first, as long as it was in a normal down and distance situation. And some people call it 15. Some people go higher or lower. But yeah, Andy Reid has definitely been very successful with his opening game script. And, you know, one of the things you study as an offensive coach is you study, okay, what's some of these defensive coordinators always call those same defense on the first play. So if you know exactly what they're going to call on the first play, you got a play that you have that's going to be good against that defense. A lot of times defensive coordinators play fairly conservative on the first drive. You know, they want to kind of feel out how the game's going to go. They want to see what the offense is going to do. Are they going to run it? Are they going to throw it? You know, in this particular game, the Eagles, I think, are going to play pretty consistent. You know, the Eagles are not a big blitz team. They're a rush 4, play that umbrella, too high coverage, try to kind of disguise it a little bit. But the Eagles are a bend but don't break. I think if you look back in the NFC Championship against Washington, what was it? It was either a 15 or like a 17-play drive where Washington kind of nickel and dimed it down the field. Well, that's playing right into Kansas City, because Kansas City is really not a big play team this year. They are a nickel and dime it. They want Mahomes to, you know, take a 3-step drop or a 1-step drop and get that ball out of his hands quick and kind of work it down the field.
Dirk Koetter, former Boise State head coach, former NFL head coach, former Boise State offensive coordinator. This is our NFL playoff correspondent segment. We're getting ready for the Super Bowl on Sunday right here on KTIK. Coach, I think Saquon Barkley is the big factor, deciding factor in this game. If they're going to hold him down, you know, that's advantage Kansas City, obviously. If he can bust out 150, 175, which is almost impossible against Spags, that's going to help the Eagles. If you're the head coach and you have your defensive coordinator, how do you tell your defensive coordinator to stop or slow down Saquon Barkley?
Well, first of all, how many formers did you just use?
I know.
That was a lot. That was a lot of formers.
I was going to throw Highland and Idaho State in there too, but I felt I was doing too many of them.
That was a lot of formers. Hey, so here's the thing. I've been watching 8 million shows this week. The 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, man, you got all these shows on what's going to happen, and I think the over/under on Saquon Barkley is around 110 to 113 yards. What's he going to rush for?
Yep.
You know, you just mentioned 150 or 175. The thing I've been thinking about this whole week, it's a lot like the Broncos were this past season with Ashton Genty. Like, you never know when this guy's going to break off a 70-yarder. I think he has like 5 touchdown runs over 50 yards this year, something like that. And that's the unknown, is like that first play of the game in the NFC Championship against Washington. The middle linebacker kind of fell down, and all of a sudden Saquon was out the gate for a 70-yard touchdown run. So Spags does have an unbelievable record of not allowing 100-yard rushers. I don't know. You know, the Eagles are a too high zone team. The Chiefs are a single high man coverage team. I don't know who's going to change. I don't know who's going to blink on this, but I think one of the best comments I've heard all this 2-week buildup is, and it puts pressure on Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. Will they stay true to what they do? Because, hey, every offensive coordinator, me included, wants to throw the ball. But the Eagles got here by pounding the ball with Saquon Barkley. I mean, arguably the greatest season in NFL history for a running back. So I got to believe if the Eagles can stay ahead of the chains and keep pounding the ball, that it's just going to be tough to stop Barkley, because A, he's a tremendous running back. B, they have a great O-line.
What about two? I mean, if you're talking about if Spags is going to have to bring another safety up, then all of a sudden, I mean, you have Devontae Smith, a Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver, and A.J. Brown, one of the most physically imposing receivers in the league. I mean, if we're watching this game and that's kind of happened, as Dirk Koetter, you're sitting there in your chair saying, okay, maybe advantage Kellen at this point because he got Spags to shift what Spags was going to do, and now Kellen opens up like in your case, you were able to throw a lot of passes this year at Boise because you know how they were going to defend you in relation to Genty. Are you going to see some of that, you think, this week too?
I definitely think you're going to see that. I mean, I don't even think the Chiefs are going to hide it. That's just what the Chiefs do. And I think they're going to bring their blitzes. Now Spags is more of a blitzer on third down, but he likes to play a lot of cover one, a lot of man free. But that then, I promise you, the Chiefs are sitting there saying, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down with the pressure on Jalen Hurts to beat us throwing the ball, as opposed to Barkley running the ball. And there's all kinds of that crazy stat is something like 4.5. The Eagles are averaging like 4.5 yards before contact. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Because I mean, okay, 4.5 yards. It's 3rd and 1, tush push. Let's go. I mean, if that was the case, you'd never stop them. So the Chiefs are going to add more bodies, whether it's by run blitz or whether it's just by playing cover one. That's another way to get the extra guy in the box. But that is going to allow for one-on-one on the outside. I know the Chiefs, they like their corners. They feel good about their corners. The Eagles feel good about their wideouts. So who does that put the pressure on? That puts the pressure on the quarterback of the Eagles. Hurts is going to have to put the ball on the money. I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's what it's going to come down to.
And obviously on the other side is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has faced Vic Fangio's defense 8 times, and he's won all 8 times. Is there such a thing in the NFL as a player getting into a coach's head where he's up there in the box overthinking things sometimes?
I don't think the Vic Fangio I know is not up there overthinking it. He's going to do what he does. You just threw that stat out there about Mahomes is 8-0 against Fangio.
Yep.
I saw one this morning that Mahomes is 11-0 in games played indoors. That's crazy. I mean, one year when I was in Atlanta, we only played 1 game outdoors all year.
Yeah.
That is wild. And so,
wow.
I don't think Vic Fangio would go down that road. I think whatever game plan he comes up with, he's going to stick with it. Obviously, Fangio calls the game from upstairs. He's going to make adjustments, but Mahomes, Andy Reid together, those two guys they're making their own adjustments. That's where Jason Kelsey comes in. The Chiefs, Andy Reid on 12 days or more to prepare. Greatest of all time. I mean, the record speaks for itself.
Yeah, and he's 8-0 against Fangio, so those stats all over the place. Hey, real quick before we dive back into the Super Bowl, when you were in the NFL, was there one guy, I'm assuming on defense, that was just not in your head, but just drove you crazy? Showing up on Sunday, he was probably gonna, I don't know, he always had great success against you. Was there that one guy you just couldn't stand?
Well, you're always gonna point to teams in your division. One guy I couldn't stand was Sean Payton, but he was a head coach. He's the head coach of the Saints. We talked about that, and I have ultimate respect for Sean Payton as a head coach. But I just we were going head to head twice a year, and we just didn't get along too good.
You beat him in some big games, Coach. You went in there.
Well, he beat me just as many times. I mean, he's really good, and it was a good rivalry. I think I told you guys about the one that made me the maddest overall is all week. I mean, the one guy I didn't want to beat us was Taysom Hill, and we played our tails off at home. We were playing. It was when I was in Tampa. Played our tails off against him. And freaking Taysom Hill blocks a punt to beat us in the 4th quarter. A guy from my own high school blocks a punt. A guy who was a college quarterback at BYU blocks a punt to beat us, man. That's the kind of stuff that you remember those things way more than you remember the great plays.
I remember watching Cutter's Bucks too, and I mean a couple of those games, man. I think he hates hearing this, but there was a year I think Tampa Bay was up there all time with games lost due to missed field goals. Like they tried everything to fix the kicker. They even took one in the freaking 2nd round And it
Third,
didn't
it
work.
was a third round. Yeah, it was a third round. And,
Yeah.
I was just for the record, I was against it, but our owners, they own that soccer team, so they thought they were kicking experts. And when that third round came up, and here it came, and everybody was staring at us, our GM, and I was shaking my head no, and the three brothers were shaking their head yes. And guess who lost?
Dirk
The
Koetter.
head coach lost, and the ownership won, and we took the kicker in the third round.
Ouch.
Yeah, Roberto Aguayo.
Yeah.
Super Bowl stuff, Prater. I have some Genty stuff. I want to ask Koetter one quick question because we were talking Ashton Genty. He's in New Orleans. He's making the rounds, and he had a sit down with John Gruden. It hasn't aired yet, but it will. And both of them well. I remember Gruden coming to your facility in Tampa. You couldn't get him to leave your building. Like, why do you think that interview is going to go, Gruden and Ashton Genty?
Well, Coach Gruden's working for Barstool now. I get I get a kick out of some of those things on social media where Gruden's like teaching all the computer geeks that work at Barstool. He's teaching them how to run plays and stuff. I mean, John must really be desperate to be doing that. But I think John does a good job in his interviews with players. He's going to make Ashton look good, and Ashton doesn't need his help to look good because Ashton is a sharp dude and knows what he's doing. So
yeah.
I think it'll be a good interview. It'll be good for Ashton. As I look back on the season, the one thing I regret is when it was like with 3 or 4 weeks to go in the season and Colorado had a bye and Travis Hunter went on College Game Day, and it was basically like he was politicking for the Heisman.
Yep.
And then we had a bye later in the year, and I was going, man, Ashton's people, whoever they are, his agents, whoever they are, they should have got Ashton on College Game Day to get out there and politic for the Heisman, because I really do believe that Ashton should have won the Heisman, and Travis Hunter's a terrific player too. But I think just Deion's social media power really hurt in the voting for that Heisman in the very end. I think Ashton should have been the winner.
Yeah, very well said.
I'm not biased or anything.
You're speaking to the masses here in Boise. Speaking of talking to the masses, any updates? What are you and your NFL friends, the official scuttlebutt? We think Kellen Moore is going to be named the head coach on Monday, putting together his staff. John Gruden's name came up yesterday as maybe a senior analyst coach on Kellen's staff. I still think Nussmeier might be his offensive coordinator. I have no idea what's going on. I don't have no idea if a Tuesday parade is going to get in the way of a hiring. But what are you hearing about Kellen Moore?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to happen. And as we talked about last week, I can't imagine the pressure and just all the feelings that Kellen's having, because probably his last game coaching the Eagles, biggest game of the year, obviously. He's gonna be the highest high or the lowest low after the game, and then it's immediately go down to New Orleans and be introduced as the new head coach down there. And he's behind. I mean, everybody else has got their staffs put together. We talked about this last week. He can't just go out and pick all the guys he wants, because anybody that's under contract, unless he's making them a play caller, he can't get them. So, I don't know. I know I played golf with Coach Pete last week in Arizona. I know Coach Pete has spoken with Kellen, and I know they probably talked about a few guys for the staff. But Kellen, a lot of these guys, you play a 17-game regular season, plus you get through the playoffs, you're a little bit worn out. But Kellen, he's going to go right back on the treadmill and start all over with his new gig in New Orleans. And so happy for him to get a shot to be a head coach in the NFL. That's awesome. I wish it was a team that I thought was going to be better than New Orleans is going to be, but it's an exciting time for him. And it's just, I can't imagine what's the turmoil that's going on, because I know he wants to give everything he can to his current team, but yet at the same time, I know he's also thinking about what's next.
Dirk Koetter with us, our NFL playoff correspondent. Super Bowl 59, in this case, Timberstone Golf Course donates $1,000 to the Boise State Horseshoe Collective to help support those student athletes. Back to the game while we have you for a few more minutes, Coach. Last week, I think you said you were in on the Eagles, but you still had a week to think about it. Are you still in on the Eagles? You leaning towards Kansas City? Any thought on who's going to win this thing, Coach?
Okay, well, this is not. I'm not giving anybody advice, but I am 100% all in on the Chiefs. Everybody's talking Eagles. I'm just watching a show where the line was crazy. The lines moved down at one point today. It was pick 'em. There's some people saying the Eagles are going to end up being favored by the time kickoff comes. Everyone's saying the Eagles has the better roster, top to bottom. I'm just saying the three-peat, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, they've done it before. I'm not betting. I'm not going against the Chiefs. And I know a lot more guys on the Chiefs than I do on the Eagles, and I'll be the first to admit that I root for people over teams, and love to see Kellen get it done. But if I was putting money on it, I'd put my own money on the Chiefs.
All right, Dirk Koetter, it might be a long time since until we get to ask you another question. Maybe next year we'll figure it out. Maybe the BNN golf tournament this summer. We'll figure something out to bug and harass you. But I have to leave you with this really dumb ditty because you would be disappointed if I didn't ask a dumb question. You're stuck on a desert island. You have to listen to music for the rest of your life, and you have to pick between Kendrick Lamar or Taylor Swift. Who is Dirk Koetter picking? Halftime show or the Travis Kelce goddess?
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh shoot. I might, if I was stranded on a desert island and those were my two choices, I might just go with the sweet sounds of the ocean.
That's probably what.
Starve yourself to death.
I'll be honest. I looked up the lyrics today. I looked up the lyrics. And all I've been hearing is this Kendrick Lamar stuff. I looked up the lyrics to this famous song of his.
Yeah,
and I was going, you got to be kidding me. I go, the NFL is going to let him do that song with those lyrics? There's no way.
What?
There's no way the NFL is going to let him do that.
I was going to ask JP to play some bumper music today about Kendrick Lamar, and I went looking for some. I couldn't find 8 seconds that didn't have something in it.
Now, I watched him give his acceptance speech on the Grammys, and I thought he did a really good job. But then I looked at those lyrics today, and I go, "Whoa, hey, hang on. We got a lot of youngsters watching the Super Bowl."
Cutter's watching the Grammys, man, on a Sunday night.
He's retired.
Cutter's sitting there watching the Grammys.
Hey man, retirement's overrated. There's some boredom involved.
Yeah, totally. Coach, enjoy Super Bowl 59. Can't wait to do this again whenever that's going to be.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you to Timberstone. Thank you for you guys to putting this together, for helping Boise State out. You guys have been fantastic through all this. Appreciate it. Bronco fans, I went down to Boise State this morning, ran into the MVP, Josh Allen's favorite receiver, Khalil Shakir, was in town. The Bronco legacy is real. Let's keep it going. And been great working with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well done. Well said. There's Coach Koetter, Dirk Koetter, our Super Bowl 59 correspondent, Prater. What was Dirk didn't know. He could not remember the first Super Bowl he ever watched with his own two eyes at his house growing up. Do you remember yours? What was it? Let's see how old some of our listeners are, or young. What was the first Super Bowl you ever remember watching on Prater in the Ball Game?
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studio, this is Ticket Traffic.
Well, you don't have to dread the drive.